Welcome to the Financial Coaches Podcast, where we talk about how to build your practice from startup to scale up while being the kind of coach your clients crave. Finally, a podcast for financial coaches. Here are your hosts, Maria Casillas and Cody Sizemore.
Hello and welcome back to the Financial Coaches Podcast. My name is Cody Sizemore. I am one of your co-hosts.
And I'm Maria
the other
Casillas.
co-host
Yes,
is
me.
Maria Casillas.
Welcome, everybody. Glad to be back with you today.
Yes, definitely. So, Maria,
Yes.
something happened
Uh-oh.
the other day.
Okay.
And I figured that it would be a good opportunity to talk about this with you on the podcast because honestly, it was a pretty eye-opening experience for me. So I'll just kind of unpack it.
Okay.
So I have been working with the client now for actually quite a long time. It's been almost 2 years.
Okay.
Like he was like one of my first clients, and he's still with me. And he had been doing really, really well with everything for a long time.
Okay.
But then I think that maybe like either things just kind of got boring or it got repetitive, or maybe he got burnt out or was dealing with certain things in his life. Anyways, the whole point is that like he kind of fell off a little bit, and it happened 2 months in a row.
Okay. But
Which
I'm
was
going to stop you for a second. When you say fell off, tell me what you mean by that.
He just lost his drive.
Okay. But he was still
He
engaging with you? Like he didn't skip sessions or anything?
He was still engaging with me.
Okay.
But like he just kind of lost his drive. He lost his passion for it.
Okay.
And because of that, you know, some of his results that he was getting was like not the best either. It was kind of out of character for him.
Okay. And you meet with him monthly?
Yes, at this point, yes.
Okay. Go on. Sorry.
So with that being said, he kind of expressed to me that like he didn't feel like certain things weren't working for him anymore, regarding like the budgeting process and like the envelope systems and stuff like that. And we talked about it, and I was like, okay, like, you know, we had been doing things very consistently and very intentionally for a long time. Mm-hmm. And now he's getting to a point to where it's like falling off. And we've had these moments here and there before, and we were able to rein it back in. But this one was different than the other ones. I could just tell that he like was not himself. So I read that and I was like, okay, maybe I'm going to try a little bit of a different approach here. So I kind of took it easy on him. And I was like, hey, dude, like, no sweat. You know, like, just, you don't have to do everything that we've been doing. You know, let's just try something new. Why don't you just focus on these key areas and the other areas that, like, we had been doing? Let's just put that in the back burner for now and see if that shift helps you. And he was pretty receptive to it. He was like, okay, yeah, I think that might work. Let's give it a shot. And I was like, okay, cool. Fast forward to the next meeting. I basically hit him up and I was like, hey, how's everything going? Are you in a better place? And he goes, honestly, yeah, I'm in a better place, but it's not because of what we did and what you said. And I'm like, okay, well, that's good news. How'd you get into a better place? And he goes, I watched Rocky. I was like, ouch. Okay, Rocky is more impactful than my coaching. Sounds good.
And see, my mind went to how can we integrate Rocky into our coaching process?
Yeah. And he was like, dude, I watched Rocky, and the ending scene where he's fighting Apollo Creed, to where he just keeps getting knocked down and keeps getting back up and keeps getting knocked down and keeps getting back up. Mm-hmm. That really inspired me. And he kind of actually called me out. He's like, you know, last time we met, you kind of you almost like took the pressure off me. Which at at the time I appreciated because I thought that's what I needed.
Mm-hmm.
But after a few weeks, like I found out that that's actually the opposite of what I needed. And it almost felt like you were giving up on me.
Oh.
And I actually don't appreciate that. And I was like, holy crap.
Hard
Okay.
swallow.
Yeah. Like, okay, cool. This new approach that I've never done before clearly did not work for me. And I was like, okay, dude, cool. You know, and I thanked him because I actually really appreciated him being honest with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I thanked him and we talked about it. And, you know, I just found out that like, hey, like this individual in particular just really does need to have that person to basically be like, hey, dude, like,
get back up, Rocky.
Up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to suck it up and keep going.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's not for everybody, but for this person, it was. And I just thought it was interesting. And I figured that it might be a good topic to talk about because I know that I'm not the only person who has dealt with this or will deal with this.
Yeah, right. Well, first and foremost, I wanted to say, damn, kudos to you for helping this individual understand the importance of identifying how they were feeling and also being able to communicate with you, because so many people have trouble doing that, and they're just like, it doesn't, I don't know, it didn't feel right, you know, and then they'll come and they'll blame and they'll do all this stuff. He didn't do that. I mean, he did kind of say, and you know, you say call you out. I don't think he called you out per se. Maybe it felt that way to you because you tried something that did not work the way that you had kind of hoped it did. And yet, how do you know it didn't work? Like if you had gone at him hard, like he thinks that you needed him to, would it have given him the opportunity to recognize his ability to do that for himself?
Right. That's a really good point.
And he needed that empowerment. He needed to realize that, I mean, he's been working with you for 2 years. And every month for 2 years, you've been the guy on the ring saying, get up, Rocky. It's time to get up. You know, just do what you got to do and get up and do it. And this time you didn't. And he needed it. And so he found it in himself. That's what we want for our clients.
Yeah. That's really, really insightful because this was an accident on my end.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I really thought that I was like doing the best thing that I should in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, I've never done anything like that before. So it was kind of like going into untested waters.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next meeting I was like, well, crap, that backfired on me.
Yeah.
But actually looking back at it now, like, I think that it was actually a good thing that I did do that. And it might be something that, like, if I have a similar situation in the future,
mm-hmm.
it might be something I even do intentionally.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like that parent that's like, you know, you don't want to be that parent that's like super, super protective of your kids that never lets your kids fail.
Right.
You know, like, that's essentially what I was trying to do, I think. And if you allow your kid to fail and feel what actually doesn't work, then they all of a sudden know what does work.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, I'm really glad you brought that up, because before I had that insight, what was coming to mind when you were just kind of unpacking the scenario a little bit was that it was interesting that when he came to you and said, you know, something's not working. And I don't know if you shared it exactly how you did it or not. So this is not a critique of your technique. But what you shared here was that you offered a solution. And I think that that's really interesting, rather than saying, well, what about it worked before and what do you think is not working right now? Like actually helping him to pull out what is different than before. And I think sometimes, myself included, by the way, we're so emotionally and personally invested in what we do with our clients that when something seems to not be working, it's very easy for our minds and our hearts to immediately go to the defensive mode. And I don't mean that in a like lashing out defensive. I just mean like a protective of our own selves defensive. And it's like, okay, well, and we tend to then try to find the solution for them, because that kind of makes us feel better. Because it's like, well, if what I'm doing right now isn't working, then my mind goes to, well, I'm the coach. I'm the one who's, quote, I'm the helper in this situation. So I need to help them find that solution. And I don't know if that was going on logically for you, emotionally for you, maybe subconsciously for you. I know that has happened to me. And in fact, it happens to me almost every time there is a critique that comes. I've become a lot more aware of that. And so it's allowed me to just take a pause and say to myself, like, okay, are they critiquing what I'm doing, or is this an opportunity for me to have them figure something out rather than me, come up with that solution? So I have gotten better about asking a question, or even just tell me more about that. Tell me a little bit more, helping them unpack that feeling or emotion that they're having. But I can tell you that even still, almost 100% of the time, my psyche goes straight to, oh my gosh, it's something that I did wrong. Do you feel like that was happening to you in that moment after hearing some of what I just mentioned, or am I absolutely off base?
Just to clarify,
yeah,
you're talking about when he came to me in a low place,
initially,
or when he came to me when he came back to me after watching Rocky?
Great question. Great clarification. Yes, I'm talking about the initial low place. Like, yeah. I've been doing well. Now something's not working. I'm in a funk type of thing.
Yeah. I didn't necessarily think that I did anything wrong. I just thought that maybe doing a new perspective or a new way of doing things might help reignite the fire in some way.
Right. But you came up with that like you made that decision, right?
That's correct. And that's something that, like, looking back at it, like, you're absolutely right. Like, what I should have done was asked him, like, well, what's working, what's not working. I think I may even have done that, but I didn't dig into it, and I was like, okay, well, we need to find out we need to find a solution, because now it's not just one time, it's a couple of times now in a row. And that is something that is very easy for us as coaches to fall into.
Yeah.
Like, it's very easy for us to just fix the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
When most of the time that's not the answer.
Right. Yeah, precisely. Yeah. But again, I mean, what you have done with this individual has got to be incredible, because he has been able to identify what's bothering him. He feels very comfortable coming to you about that. And he also knows how to communicate that information, which again is absolutely incredible. I mean, yeah.
You want to know what else is incredible?
I would love to.
This actually happened about 5 months ago.
Okay.
I just haven't brought it up until now.
Oh, okay.
But it's been on my mind ever since it happened.
Wow.
And I've adjusted how I handle my other clients with it too. And fast forward 5 months, this client now just became debt free.
Wow, that's incredible. So he did not lose momentum. He actually picked it up.
The fire was reignited after that conversation, which was huge.
Well, if I may, it's because he wasn't bored. He wasn't, I don't think he was feeling disenfranchised or bored with the underlying reason for him doing this. He was bored with the process. And so It was all those little things that he was saying, I was doing envelopes and I was doing this and I was doing that. But when he watched Rocky, Rocky didn't talk about envelopes. Rocky didn't talk about money at all. He didn't talk about anything, but what he demonstrated was the why. Like who the heck is this guy? He's someone who gets back up. He gets knocked down 400 times. He's going to get back up 401. And that's what your client tapped into, was the underlying purpose for what he's doing. And that's what lit that fire. And then he was able to decide which of the processes were working and which ones am I able to be okay without. And that is how he then became debt free all this few months later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's everything you talk about, Cody. You always talk about going back to the why.
Mm-hmm. All the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. What a great success story that he was able to come out of that and be reignited. And now that you have gained the insight from this episode about the empowerment piece, how he had to figure that out himself, what are you going to do with that information? What are you going to do with that insight?
I'm definitely going to keep that in my back pocket.
Okay.
And apply it when I think it's necessary. It's a little bit of a scary thing to do because it's like, for example, I sell a 6-month program. People choose to go on beyond that if they'd like, but I really have 6 months to kind of like make them make the decision of like, is it worth to keep going or not? And if it's during that 6 months and I'm just like, yeah, take it easy, man. That's kind of a vulnerable spot to put me as a coach, but I think that if it's something to where I'm like, I see all the signs here, like lining up, and this might be something that's valuable to them, to allow them to fail so that they can see what does and does not work, so that they can then come back and be like, okay, this does work. And then hit it again. That can be really powerful for everyone involved.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I'm definitely going to put it in my back pocket. And that lucky client who gets to see it next.
I'm wondering what you're going to do. I'm wondering what you're going to do with it with the client that we're talking about now.
I might even just bring that up.
And what would be the purpose of that?
Just to kind of show them that, like, it does get tough and you do get knocked down. But if you keep going and you trust the process and you keep showing up for yourself, you'll get there, and sometimes it's okay for you to hit quote unquote rock bottom, even though it wasn't rock bottom, but like, he probably felt like that. He was in a very low point, and I think that it's important for him to just recognize that was actually probably a really critical component to his success.
Okay. What else was a really critical component to his success in that moment?
Oh, you're making me think, Maria.
I'm sorry. I can give you the answer I'm looking for if you want. And by the way, I mean, whatever answer you give is awesome. I'm not specifically seeking a different answer, but
why don't you fill me in on what you're kind
just for the sake of our listeners. I just think it's super important for him to recognize his ability to do his own thinking, to do his own redirecting, to do his own problem solving in that moment. And it's one thing to have people realize that, we have to hit rock bottom because, unless you have enough pain, you're not going to want to change. There's all of that. But the empowering piece of this one for him, I think, is that he didn't need you in that moment. And it wasn't until you accidentally and almost unintentionally allowed him to not have you come up with the solution that he had to realize that he had that in himself, that he realized what he most needed. And so I just think it's really important for you to be able to go back and let him relive that and just be like, hey, do you remember when? And you kind of relay that out for him. And you did that. You did that without the help of a coach. You recognize this. And that is huge huge progress from 2 years ago. And just help him see that progress because it's not just about being debt free. That's a huge celebration, right. And it's something that is, yes, let's absolutely celebrate it. But that will be fleeting. unless he gets himself back into a bunch of debt, and then he can have that rush again. But if that's the rush he's chasing, and I mean this seriously, if that's the rush he's chasing, then he absolutely will go back into debt so that he can chase that rush again.
Yeah, he's not. We actually had that conversation when we met last. He's definitely in the mindset of like, cool, got that done, feels great, love it. I'm on to the next thing, and my journey is not ending here. Like, it's just beginning.
Yeah,
you know. And you're right. That is a very empowering thing, you know, for him to see that kind of growth, not only on a spreadsheet or in his bank account.
Yep.
But to really see that growth within himself throughout the process.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
Yep.
And I totally would agree with that. I might even send him this podcast.
Oh, okay. Well, that's exciting. He can know that he's a part of our journey here. Yeah, I think it is really important because he did do some incredible stuff. And I mean, he may decide to be connected with you for a really, really long time. But I want him to realize that even in the absence of you as a coach for him, he is learning what it takes, and he has that. And so I just think it's a huge testament to him. It's a huge testament to you. And I really do appreciate you bringing this on the podcast today so we could unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, totally. Well, thanks for weighing in.
You bet.
I definitely got some insights out of that.
Good. Me too.
For sure.
Me too. And I think it's just that gentle reminder that we are all vulnerable and privy to that privy is such the wrong word there, but definitely vulnerable to that defense mechanism as coaches that I think does happen for us to help protect our ego a little bit. And I think that that's one of those things that gets glossed over a lot because it doesn't sound nice and it doesn't sound professional, but it's real and it's raw. And that's what we do here. So yeah. All right, you guys, thanks again for listening. This has been a really great wrap up to a great series that we've been talking about, just different things that are happening with our clients and goals and just lots of stuff that we've talked about over the last few weeks, I think have been super, super cool. So I appreciate you bringing up this one very vulnerable topic that is more of an example for people than it is actual tips. This was fun for me. I hope it was also for you.
Oh, it definitely was.
Awesome. All right, you guys, have a great rest of your week. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Coaches Podcast, brought to you by New Money Habits and Sizemore Financial Coaching. Submit your questions to our host by emailing podcast@newmoneyhabits.com. Be sure to subscribe to be notified of future episodes and join our growing group of like-minded coaches on Facebook. And until next time, happy coaching. Music provided by Summer School.